Am I the asshole for refusing to switch my son's school even though my wife wants me to? So a couple of years ago I made a deal with my son. If he worked hard and got enough points in a primary school final to get into a prestigious private school, I will pay his tuition fees about $6,000 a year. My wife was okay with this and my son made it in. He loves the school, the food he eats there, his teachers, his friends and the events he gets to participate in. The school gives him a huge advantage to move to another country where there are better universities and job opportunities. Last year about 7,170th students went to North American and European universities, some with scholarships, some without. This doesn't seem like a big deal, but I live in a country that is always at the brink of economic collapse and the government is getting into a lot of department from China. The issue started about 2 weeks ago when my wife saw an article that the goal of my son's school is to convert Christians into Muslims. The school is a Muslim school but most students are Christians. The only difference I see is they have a half day on Friday so Muslims can do prayers, which is not a big deal. My wife is insisting I switch my son to a public school since all other private high schools are owned by Muslims. I refused and told her I will not compromise. She is now angry and saying she will do it herself then. I am working on removing her as a guardian to my son in the school system, but she is calling me an asshole. So am I the asshole? ETA. My wife is not the mother of my child. Not the asshole. I bet your wife wouldn't have a problem with your son's school if the school was a Christian school that tried to convert Muslims into Christians.
No. You're honoring the agreement you made with your son. You would be a huge asshole to break this with him. Whether or not the school has great prospects or not, you made a promise to your son.
Info. Are you and your wife still married, cohabiting and co-parenting?
Not the asshole, as long as you actually listen to and consider your wife's concerns. If there hasn't been any attempt to convert your son, it sounds like this school is the best place for him. Without knowing too much about the situation, I'd also guess that article your wife read might be biased, inaccurate. It sounds like you live in a majority Muslim country with a substantial Christian population, and sometimes when you have situations with two major religions that clash within a country, there can be misinformation spread.
Info. Why is your wife so heavily invested in a single article she read about this school? You said in another comment that your son has been at this school for 2 years. I would think that, after 2 years, you and your wife would be pretty familiar with your son's school, especially since it's such a prestigious one, its culture, and its programs. I know it's a boarding school, but I would assume you both researched it and have visited it before enrolling your son. This doesn't make sense that your wife would have such an extreme reaction to this one random article.
NTA. I really don't see how having a half day to allow Muslim students, staff to pray it's in any way indoctrination. I went to a Catholic school in the UK, ironically known for its science department, and the most we did that had anything to do with Catholicism was Mass once per term. You could make a better argument against my school since it was making students go to Mass, but your son's school isn't making him pray. Don't take away your son's future opportunities and current happiness. Don't take him out.
ETA. My wife is not the mother of my child. That alone is way more than enough to say not the asshole, your son, your rules. Besides, her point, since all other private high schools are owned by Muslims, just reeks of Islamophobia. You should reconsider whether you want to stay with a person so prejudiced against Muslims that she's willing to sacrifice the education of your son.
Absolutely not the asshole. Your wife is way overstepping. I can see trying to allay her concerns, but she is overreacting to an article that may have been rooted in Islamophobia rather than fact.
NTA. This article she read, is it legitimate or some kind of hate article by someone who believes Muslims are trying to take over the world? Also, your son will get to a point where he will decide which faith he chooses to follow. There is nothing wrong with being taught about all religions in the world to allow people to make informed decisions.
Not the asshole. I went to public school in North America and it's next to worthless. Don't pull your kid out of a good school like that just because people are afraid of Muslims.
You can't have an agreement your son, have him put all that work into getting in, then rescinding the agreement. All that's going to is cause negative reinforcement. He'll have no incentive in the future to reach whatever goals you two agree because you took this one away from him, and in his 15-year brain, he'll think you'll do this again and he won't trust you. Also, if he's happy, why disturb that? Let the kid be, he worked hard for it, not the asshole.
Not the asshole, but your marriage sounds problematic. Not the asshole. It sounds like a Gulen school. I've dealt with a lot of them. Their goal isn't to convert, but to show everyone how welcoming Islam is. Not the asshole. My close friend is a Lebanese Muslim who attended a Catholic high school. He really values that experience and even talks about wanting to send his future kids to Catholic school. I'd say there's a lot of value in exposing your kid to people with differing backgrounds. Your son is happy, and your wife is not his mother, so her opinion on this is irrelevant. That she is so willing to massively overstep in the name of bigotry is pretty alarming, and I would do a lot of thinking about this marriage if I were you.
Not the asshole. You're opening doors for your son's future. He wanted to go to a private school and worked hard to get into one, and he loves going there.
Not the asshole, and also not very Christian of your wife. Smile.
Wait, can you give me the link to the news article? You mentioned that the only difference is the schedule on Friday due to a Muslim prayer event, which I do know they have a special prayer on Friday. This sounds to me that the school was simply trying to be more inclusive towards Muslim students to better accommodate their religion practices, as opposed to converting the school from Christian to Muslim. As long as the school is not forcing your child to practice Islam, your wife's grievance of putting your child in a converted Muslim school is quite unfounded. So not the asshole. But I will say your decision to remove your wife off the guardianship would be taking it too far. Not the asshole. Half-days are common and no big deal. But your wife saying she is going to make decisions about your child against your consent does make her the especially when they are motivated by religious intolerance. Her behavior is morally reprehensible.
Not the asshole. She's not his parent, so she doesn't get a say in it, and he was already 15 when you guys got married.
Not the asshole. What does she have against Muslims? She understands that he gets to choose his own religion. What she is doing is forcing her religion on him.
But why would she not want you to take him out of this private school and put him in another instead of a public school? Not the asshole. Don't do.
Plenty of people send their off-religion children to religious school. Around here it's the Catholic schools who are known for being the best, but non-Catholics can't be turned away. Not the asshole.
Not the asshole. Based on her contribution to his upbringing, I'm willing to bet this is more about the money. Why does she think she gets any say at all? All signs point to either prejudice or monetary concerns, neither of which portray her nicely and neither of which give her the justification, or right, to assert herself into your commitment and relationship with your son.
Not the asshole. You are trying to ensure the best future for your son. Meanwhile, your wife is worried that your son will choose a different religion. It's obvious whose head and heart are in the right place. Also, side note, but how little faith does your spouse place in your religion that she thinks it would be so easy to convert your son away from it?
Not the asshole. I am a Catholic who went to a Muslim high school for 5 years. My younger brother is in his 5th year at the male version of my high school. I can tell you it will be beneficial for your son. Schools run by religious boards, at least in my country, tend to have a higher quality of education. More students earn scholarships. In all my time going to high school there I was never pushed to convert to Islam. They allowed the Muslim students to go to mosque. The school is on the same compound, on a Friday while the rest of us had lunch. We weren't forced to say the prayers or observe the religion at all. This will teach your son to respect a religion a large section of the world judges without being informed about. Have you noticed anything indicating that your son is being converted? Maybe ask what Christian students do at prayer time, or how many of his classmates are Christian and do they all get along or self-segregate. Does your son receive religious education outside of school? I'm in the US, and where I am, many Muslim families send their kids to the Catholic schools. I don't think the kids are leaving Islam, for what it's worth.
Not the asshole. Especially seeing that she isn't your child's mother. She has zero rights to interfere with your child's schooling.
Not the asshole. If your son decides he wishes to follow in the faith of the school he is attending, that is his choice.
Not the asshole. It's not an invalid concern, but I went to a Church of England first school, and have been an atheist ever since. Nothing makes you detest a religion like institutionalizing it.
Not the asshole. She needs to butt out. This is not her decision.
That edit was super important, to know that your wife is not the parent. Not the asshole. Your son earned this and is happy and successful. Don't pull him out due to religion. He can make his own decisions about religion anyway, and for now he can benefit from the school.
Not the asshole. Your wife sounds really racist.
Not the asshole. IDK man, your wife kinda acts Islamophobic.
Wife as ta. Not the asshole. What is the source of this so-called article? Unless it's an unbiased source, I would take it with a grain of salt. If it's from a biased source, it could be propaganda. Does your son report anyone trying to convince him to become a Muslim? Unless your son says they are actively trying to force him to become Muslim, then she's worrying over nothing. And if this is the case, and your son wants to stay and you want him to stay, then remove her and let him get the best education he can.
Are you in Pakistan RN? You, AITA SMHSC, tell your wife to learn about the religion instead of judging it. It is against Islam to force your beliefs on others. Friday prayers are called Juma. It takes 30 malines. Tell your wife get educated on him, and having your son learn about Islam can make him understand his peers more if Islam is widespread in your country. Dubai
can confirm. Went to a religious school and it is far more likely to put you completely off religion than convert you that one. None of it matters in the long run. I'm from a country right next to yours. I'm a Hindu by birth. Grew up praying to Jesus every school day since I was 5. I believe in neither. I personally believe letting your kid be introduced to multiple religions is very good for them, since they can learn from both of them without being orthodox about either. Not the asshole.
If it's any consolation, I am a minor religion who went to Catholic school for a year where I was weekly bullied to convert. It didn't work, it just made the Catholics look bad in my opinion. Lol.
Reading a random article on the internet as the whole basis on her objection? Is she unaware that any idiot can put something on the internet? Source: I am an idiot and I write lots of crap on the internet.
Not the asshole. Plenty of times, private religious schools are the best ones for students to thrive in and receive opportunities in. I've seen plenty of Jewish students attend Catholic private schools. I myself attended a Jewish university while being a non-Jew. If this school provides the best for your son, then keep him in it.
0/5 assholes. Your wife's a racist with no regard for how your son feels. Divorce her if you have to. Not the asshole. Other comments already said it all. Pushing your kids into religion is the best way to guarantee they will leave it and resent it.
Not the asshole. An article is not the same as school policy.
Not the asshole. Perhaps rushing into a big decision that'll upheave your life isn't a smart idea. Consider doing a little digging, research, ask around. Is there proof to the rumor? How much? What does it mean to convert to Muslim? Don't just reject your wife, but don't just give way to her anxieties and fears until proven true and problematic. NTA, they're not forcing your child to change religions.
Okay. So it sounds like the school isn't actively trying to convert students to Islam, but allowing the Muslim students their prayer time, and the article was just the usual Islamophobic bigotry. If that's the case, then you're definitely not the asshole and your wife is just being a bigot. And one last tongue-in-cheek remark. A country that is always at the brink of economic collapse, and the government is getting into a lot of department from China. So, the US. XD, if you listen to the conservatives in this country, that describes us. But only when the liberals are in charge. The conservatives are supposedly saving us from such a horrible fate.
Not the asshole. If your son is happy, you are happy to pay the cost and can afford to do so, and both feel this is the best for him, then you do what you need to do. Though your wife is not his biological mother, I assume she helps raise him. Her reason for wanting him to change schools makes her seem pretty terrible. I'm sure your son can decide for himself which faith he wants to follow, and being at public school won't change that.
Dude must live in the US.